This episode of Detail Therapy is brought to you by my Shine Squad. If you head over to patreon.com/AMYTV, check out AMYTV's Shine Squad. This is what we are calling a self-improvement sorority, and it has been so amazing. We launched just in May, and ever since we've been sharing tips and tricks and ideas on how to optimize your day, go after the life that you want, and especially make those mornings on your terms. So obviously a lot of people know I have a book coming out next year all about your good morning for a good life. And that is what we have been talking about in this group together. We talk about those morning routines, productivity tips, motivation for helping us get up and make life our terms every day. So if you head over to patreon.com/AMYTV, you can find out all of the different access points that might be right for you, whether you would like early announcements of AMYTV videos that are coming. If you want to help me write my book, there's a spot for you there as well. Or if you would like to watch these podcast interviews that happen in real time before they hit the podcast via live video, there's a place for you to join for that as well. So head over to patreon.com/AMYTV for you to join this self-improvement sorority, AMYTV's Shine Squad.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author, obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies.
Give me every little detail
Of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
Life's going to be a struggle. There is going to be variables and things you can't handle in life. Deaths, weddings, babies, doesn't matter what it is. Your body's gonna have to suffer through all of it with you. Like, you can't just change it at the whim, right? Like, I can't go to the store and be like, I want a new body because this jalopy that I have, I want a Ferrari. That's not gonna happen. If you look good when you're doing your job and you feel good, you feel confident, no matter if you're wearing your power suit or anything, you're going to perform well, right? If your confidence is blossoming because you feel good about yourself, you have the right nutrients in your body, you have the right energy, you're going to hit the ground running. My suggestion to you is, if you want to be happy and healthy in life, take care of your body and it'll take care of you.
Good morning, good life. Welcome back to Detail Therapy. You just heard a little bit of my chat with Frank Cosenza, professional personal trainer and bodybuilding coach. In this episode, we'll be talking about a few things like how to figure out how many calories you really need to burn every day, the truth about having a six-pack, and the fundamentals you need for understanding how to lose that extra weight. We have a lot to get into today, but for those of you who are new to the show, my name is Amy Landino. I will be your host. I really appreciate you being here with me today. Honestly, it is one of my favorite things to do, sit here and talk in my pajamas to a microphone, and I appreciate you so much. You know, luckily for our guests, I do get dressed and put makeup on for them, but for these moments together, you guys, it's a lot more intimate. Anyway, I'm a YouTube creator, professional speaker, best-selling author, and entrepreneur. I'm here to help you go after the life that you want. So you can find out more details about that and about me at youtube.com/AMYTV. So I'm still getting into the swing of things here. I was on vacation for a little while, and I'm listening to this interview back that I did months ago, quite frankly, with Frank. And I'm so excited to finally be sharing it with you. It's just so much fun for me to just even listen back to a conversation I had, both for, selfish reasons and for you. I listen to everything so I know exactly what your takeaway is going to be so that I make that really clear to you in this produced edit. And I also love hearing, oh yeah, that's right. I'm only supposed to be eating like 1,500 calories a day, Amy. How was Italy? Let's talk about it. Get it together. So that's what's on my mind right now. But yeah, it's been such a great summer. I really hope it's going well for you too. It's been super hot everywhere I've been. But other than that, great summer. Happy to be back in the air conditioning. That's a thing that they don't do, by the way, in Italy, really that much. Not a lot of air conditioning happening on that side of the world. But maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they're better people than me. I'm not really sure. Anyway, not going to waste a lot of time because there's a lot of stuff to talk about today in this episode. There's a lot of details You know I like to bring the details, so make sure you're following along. But even if you don't catch every single thing, we're going to put it in the show notes, so make sure you check that out. But most importantly, just remember that everyone is different and everyone's goals are different. Think about your goals and think about how the advice today is going to apply to you. Your fitness goals, your health goals, your body goals are not going to be the same as everyone else. And you need to take the information that's available to you and use it to your advantage. The good news is, and we'll talk a lot about this, it's basically just math. What do you want to happen? What would you like to see? Reverse engineer that math problem. So it's about getting access and understanding that stuff and understanding what that math problem is. And that is why I brought Frank onto the show today. So with that, let's get into it with my next guest. Frank Cosenza is a professional fitness trainer and bodybuilding coach. As the founder of Sentinel Performance in Lewis Center, Ohio, he helps people reverse engineer their health goals to achieve the results they want. Whether you're overweight and want to make a lifestyle change, or you're just trying to figure out how to get shredded, as the kids say, Frank is experienced in doing the work and leveraging the math to make it happen. We recorded this episode in Columbus, Ohio at Skyfall Studios, where my company, Aftermark, is headquartered. So let's pop over there and talk about how to reach your fitness goals. Frank Cosenza, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me why you do what you do.
I love it. There's nothing more thrilling or gratifying, I think, than helping somebody else achieve their goals. When I was 15, I was a pudgy fat kid and wanted to play sports and didn't want to get laughed out of off the team. And I want to actually play, so I took it pretty serious, and I started working out and dropped 40 pounds unintentionally, but I dropped 40 pounds in...
How unintentionally?
Like 3 months.
How's that possible?
Because I ate 3 meals a day when I was a kid, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like
everybody else is brought up to do.
I didn't really snack too much when I was in high school. I had the same thing every day. Cheerios for breakfast at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Lunch was like a bologna and cheese sandwich with like a juice box or something. My parents made us take our lunch. And then dinner was whatever I got when I got home when I was done with football practice. And with football, with the level of activity happening, I just dropped 40 pounds. I didn't even know. I was
going to say, you need some more nourishment to go into football practice.
Yeah,
don't you?
I mean, and I rarely, I didn't eat really anything in between. I mean, I drank water maybe, but it was just such an increase in activity that it just kind of melted off. And the reason I didn't know is because I used to layer my clothes.
Layered your clothes so you didn't know you lost that much weight?
Well, so I layered my clothes because, one, I didn't have a belt when I was younger that fit. And then, so I had like my shorts underneath my pants. We didn't have lockers to change, so you had to like change in front of everybody else. And so I just layered my clothes so I could just make it quick and easy in and out of the gym. And when I found out I lost the weight when I got off the public bus and my pants fell off.
Oh my God.
With the layers. And so I was like, what? So I ran home, got undressed, got on the scale, and it said 140, and I was like, what?
Whoa.
Because, I mean, I didn't notice. I mean, if you see yourself
When would have been
day,
the last time you saw or heard your weight? Like, were you tracking it at that stage of the game, or what did they weigh you going into football season?
They weighed us at the beginning, I believe. You have to do the physical, so I think I had to do it, and it was written on the paper by the doctor's office. And, I mean, we had one of those cheap scales that were spring loaded in my parents' house.
Yeah.
And I wasn't paying attention to it at all. It was just kind of like eat, go to school, football practice, come home. And I can remember vividly, like, there are a handful of times I don't even think I ate dinner because I was just either exhausted from football or it was 6, 7 o'clock at night and I had to do homework.
Did you start to realize, even at that age, maybe not knowing as much as you know now about, body and food and health, that maybe your job was a lot harder as a football player because you weren't really doing something sustainable?
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. No, I didn't think about it.
Really?
And when you're a kid,
what did you do at that moment when you realized you lost the weight?
I just hit it and just started. And then once I realized that the weight was so low, I was like, I'm going to die. So then I just lived in the weight room or lived in the gym.
Yeah.
Every day, every night after football. In the summer, I had a job and I'd be in the basement. My parents bought me a weight set that summer, and I was just lifting every day.
So is that how you started actually like training for the first time? Like, how did you end up in this career now?
So, yes, I basically lost a ton of weight, and I was like, Jesus, I'm gonna die if I try to play football, because that's all people always said to me. I was too small. I needed to pick a different sport. And I was like, no, I want to play, and I'm going to do everything in my power to play. And so I just lived and trained and went to school. And school wasn't really hard. My parents made it very necessary for us to be academically inclined. So we just had to do schoolwork, and then anything else that we wanted to do, we just had to be the best that we can be at it. I still remember my mom telling me, like, I didn't make a tackle, she would yell at me, or if I didn't make an interception or a fumble recovery, she was saying something, and she doesn't even know anything about football. She would be like, why didn't you fall on the ball when the ball was on the ground? And I was like, because I wasn't anywhere near it. But it didn't matter. She would just, that's just how it was. And with grades, it was the same thing. If you got 100, why didn't you get 100 plus? Or if you get an A, why wouldn't you get an A plus? So it was just one of those things where once I realized that, being as small as I was, I had to put in the work to be stronger to play. So that was all I cared about, was trying to play.
Wow. So, I mean, like, that's a pretty high standard to live by. I mean, like, parents are great for that reason. They really challenge us in the way that they know best. But do you think that that's caused you to be a little bit of a perfectionist over time?
I'm sure.
I don't know for a fact you are. I feel like you would be.
I mean, in certain disciplines of life, I'm sure I am. It's always been that way. So there's, if you're not good at something, you don't do it. I'm the opposite. If I'm not good at it, I try harder.
Wow.
So I guess, I mean, they made it pretty simple.
Yeah. How did you get interested in doing competitions? Like, is that just a level of curiosity once you start lifting weights and learning about the science of it?
No, I think ultimately it was because I couldn't play football anymore. I had a number of injuries that stopped me from playing sports, and but I needed some kind of outlet. And weight training is great, but it's like a gateway drug to everything else, right? Like, there's, obviously when I started really getting into weight training, CrossFit became super competitive and popular. But I didn't really have an affinity for it, because I was like, I don't really want to run or do anything.
Do you like CrossFit, like, in general? Like, what are your feelings about it? Because I feel like it's a little bit, I don't quite get it. I don't quite get it.
It's a community-based thought process. It's competition-based. So it definitely would have played into my thought process. I just had a lot of injuries, and I was concerned about just not. I mean, I guess I could have went one of two ways. I was in a corporate gym, so CrossFit wasn't really something that we were allowed to do. Not that they were frowning upon it. It was just unknown at the time. And then, but for me, I just like lifting heavy. And I guess from being in college and playing against guys that were always bigger than me, I always had to lift like they did and lift against them. So that's just what I did, and I enjoyed it, and I was good at it, and it seemed like a natural progression. And once I became a trainer in 2006, it was just my curiosity just led into different paths, and Olympic weightlifting was the first thing I picked up, and I really enjoyed it, so I just kept doing it.
What's Olympic weightlifting? Like, how do you classify that?
So Olympic weightlifting is what you see in the Olympics. There's two lifts, the snatch and the power clean.
Okay.
Right now, actually, the World Championships are happening, and the USA is pretty dominant in it. And I mean, it's literally just two lifts. You get 6 total attempts, and it's a drug. It's a powerful drug. It's an adult version of a video game, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
Because it's like when we were kids, we had Super Mario Brothers. The first board, you have to jump over that little ditch, but you usually, because you couldn't, if you're a little too small, you'd fall in the hole.
That's right.
You just want to keep going.
Yeah.
And in Olympic weightlifting or any competition that you can get behind, it's a powerful drug because it's a goal, and there's a number, there's an end line, there's
There's like you did it or you didn't.
Yeah, you either lifted it or you didn't.
I completely get that.
So
those are the sexiest things to measure. Like it either happened or it didn't.
Right, and it's just powerful enough to draw you in. And when you don't do something, but you feel like you could, or you left it out there that you didn't get it, there's a reason why. So you go back mechanically, fix some things, and then you come back and try it again. And you get 3 chances, 1, 2, 3. That's it. And it happens fast. That there's a ton of training that goes into it, and it's a powerful motivator to keep you in there.
So what kind of you did a different kind of competition more recently, and maybe you've had a few, but what does it look like more in that direction? You're not doing so much the Olympic ones.
So again, an injury sort of hamstrung me, I guess is the way to put it.
Literally? Or?
Yeah. No, I tore my biceps tendon in 2014, and I wasn't allowed. I basically had to stop Olympic weightlifting just because of the pressure and the time that it took. But again, I am super competitive. I love challenging myself. I like treating myself like a science project. So I really do believe the body's a machine. It'll do whatever you tell it to. And so I really got into coaching and developing the people for bodybuilding competitions, and just got into that because it's always been a passion. And I mean, it's fun. It's fun to see what you can do when you add in a tablespoon of this or a gram of that, and just to see how the body changes. And when people that want to get on stage and really, really, really have that passion, it's like helping somebody reach Mount Everest. They didn't think they could do it. They weren't sure, but with your help, they got there, and they conquered a fear of getting on stage in front of a bunch of people barely dressed.
What percentage of people do you feel like come to you and say that that's their goal versus I want to train with you to get shredded? Like that phrase.
Yeah. So it's a very small, I would probably say it's probably less than 10% say they want to do competitions. I mean, I think a lot of people talk about it, but out of that 10%, most of them are just looking to be leaner. Yeah. And we're talking like they think 10 pounds is going to do it. It's usually double that. And then there's out of that 10%, maybe like 2 to 3% that will really follow through and take it all the way to the stage.
But that's not all you do anyway, right? Like people come to you and they train and like I've been to your gym, and it's one of those things where initially Vincenzo, my husband, was actually training with you first, and he was like, you've got to try, and I've never been much of a weightlifter, and so I just have my own assumptions before I go somewhere. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be on meat house, it's going to be a bunch of guys doing competitions and stuff, but there was actually women in there. There were a lot of different people, different sizes, different everything. Yeah. And so I guess like I'm curious about this whole concept of, we see so much happening on, especially in social media these days. Yep. And we see someone's highlight reel, and we see somebody's washboard abs or whatever. And we look at that and we're like, I want that. And I'm curious as to your thoughts on that, because to me, especially the conversations I've had with you, and how much this really is science, even achieving a goal like that, which is either you did it or you didn't, again, right. How sustainable it is. Because at the end of the day, like, you kind of can get there and then you can eat a piece of cake and then is gone. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's definitely not sustainable. Being at low body fat for anybody you're seeing a snapshot. And what's great about social media is if you get a whole lot of pictures taken, you can make that
it look like that
snapshot.
Yeah.
You can make that snapshot look as big as you want.
Pro tip.
Yeah. And if you change your outfits, now it looks like you've changed seasons.
It's like that Drake song Vin always tells me about.
Yeah, it's something you can do for short periods of time, but you have to allow the body to recover. Naturally, the body wants to have a little bit more fat on it. And when you're seeing all of the fitness models that are on, they're getting paid to be that way.
Absolutely. So, it's their job to somewhat sustain that.
Yeah, so if I gave you $20 million and I was like, Amy, you got to have a six-pack, you'd be like, okay, sure. How
So I get
long
to
do
keep
need
the money
Yeah.
and I get a six-pack?
Yeah. All right. So it becomes a little bit more realistic when that's all you do all day long. Mm-hmm. But it's less realistic when, you know, you're a mother of 3, you work nights.
And your goals look different.
Right.
You know, if it's not a part of your job to look like that, like literally not part of your job. Obviously, jobs these days want you to be a lot healthier, but that's not the same. That's not the same conversation whatsoever. Being healthier, being at a healthy body weight and fat mass and all that happy stuff, like, is not the same as, oh, I have to have a six-pack.
Yeah, no. Having a six-pack is completely about how much body fat you're carrying around and how lean or how much lean muscle mass you have comparative to body fat. And there are a lot of bodybuilders across the board, natural, unnatural, doesn't matter, that will go through unhealthy measures to get it, right? So I'm sure everybody out there has heard of an apple a day keeps the dentist or doctor away or whatever. But you won't eat an apple if you're bodybuilding. You won't eat fruit, like just because you're afraid of the sugar or the added sugar into your diet. So you end up doing things that are not necessarily healthy to capture this look for a moment in time, for 2 minutes that you're going to be on stage in front of judges, to captivate against being literally captivating their judge's eye against somebody else that is doing the exact same thing. And it's how different can you make yourself, or how appealing can you make yourself muscularly in front of against competition.
Yeah. So I'm curious, if somebody walks into Sentinel, your gym, and they say, I want to start working with you. I need to start taking care of myself. How different is it? Let's say if somebody comes in and on their scale, they're considered obese,
Right.
versus somebody else who, it doesn't matter what, less than that, just needs to start taking care of themselves. How different are you actually working with somebody that is considered obese versus not?
So the methods that we'll use is going to be slightly different in terms of we might do different exercises. We might do a different meal plan or nutrition plan for the individual trying to lose weight versus just trying to teach somebody healthy habits. But in the grand scheme of things, it all kind of looks the same. If I tell you to do a squat, whether it's body weight or with weight, it's still a squat. Right. So methodology or thought process will probably be the same because I don't change. I'm the same common denominator.
Sure.
But we're going to use all of our education and our skill sets to try to get and achieve the quickest path for that person's goals. Somebody that's trying to lose body weight, everything's going to be daunting in the beginning, right? Especially if you're very much overweight or obese, and you're carrying, an extra 50 to 100 pounds more than your body actually can carry, walking's at that point hard for you.
Yeah, walking is exercise in an even bigger way for you.
The intensity in terms of how you're going to ask them or the questions you're going to ask in terms of the workout is going to be slightly different. But all in all, it's going to be the same thing. We're trying to teach the person healthy habits, things that are measurable so that they can consistently keep progressing. And we're going to try to get an understanding of where their diet is so we can sort of help point them in healthier directions. There's lots of people that, for some reason or another, believe that a pound of muscle weighs more than a pound of fat. And that's just not true because a pound is a pound. Right.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised how many times a day I answer that question.
What's the context of somebody talking to you about that? What are they thinking?
Literally, the idea is, I think it's an old adage that people have said always that muscle weighs more than fat. No, it doesn't, because
are people saying that because they don't want to get like bulky and because they think it's going to actually end up weighing more?
Yeah, so they start rationalizing that their body's lighter than what it should be because they have less muscle mass on them. But really, fat mass is just larger than muscle mass. Muscle mass is a lot more dense and a lot more condensed. So it takes
up less space.
Yeah, so that's really what happens. So you can actually be bigger than what you look right now if you have more muscle mass on you but you weigh less or the same because of the muscle mass taking up less space. Fat seems to spread out where muscle wants to stay together.
Yeah.
So when fat on your body is everywhere, it's going to take up more space. But you can be 130 pounds and 30% body fat, and you can be 130 pounds and be 10% body fat.
Right.
It's going to look different, but
Interesting.
you'll still weigh the same.
Yeah. Why do you think, I don't know, this might be science. I always thought it was interesting. Like, it seems like the more weight you have to lose, the faster you could lose it if you just start making the changes, right? I mean, initially it's just, I haven't practiced this bicep curl.
Right.
No matter what size you are, it's painful.
Right.
You know, whether you have a lot of extra weight on you or not.
Yeah.
But so that's sort of the out of practice part, I feel like, with exercise. But with diet, even, it just seems like the weight can fall off if you really do have that much more than somebody else over what their what is it, BMI? Maybe
so
should be?
your BMI is going to be your height versus your weight ratio, and it's an older measurement system. It's pretty classically used in the military.
Do you think it's still fairly important to know what that is?
It helps
individually?
It'll help you, but I mean, height weight ratio, it doesn't necessarily understand what you're made of. So if you're 150 pounds, but for me, I'm 5'4", and if I weigh 150 pounds, but I have 80 pounds of muscle on me and 20 pounds of fat, the BMI isn't going to register it. It's just going to say, all right, you're 150 at 5'4", you should be 145, you're 5 pounds overweight, and then the numbers will add up and you'll be somewhere on the scale. I think the last time I got measured, I'm like 28% on the BMI. But it doesn't measure muscle or fat, so that's why it's a little outdated. And body fat.
But if someone's not been to the gym lately, the BMI is probably going to give them a good assessment of.
Yeah, it's definitely going to give you a telltale sign that you need to do something.
Yeah.
But,
let's talk about the diet planning side of this then. Like, how do you approach this? Because I've come to learn from you that this is basically just a big math problem.
It is
math and science.
It is. It's a math problem once you figure out which way you want to go. A lot of the times people come in with their preconceived notions of what they want to do or how they want to do it or what they've tried. And
I love that, by the way. Let's sidebar.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm kind of curious about like what the biggest excuse has been to you, because I do feel like it falls into, I tried that once and it didn't work for me. And it's just like, what do you mean by once?
Yeah. Like, ultimately, the biggest hang up for anybody getting into working out healthy lifestyles is that they want it now.
Yeah.
So if you want to lose weight, you expect that if you change any of your habits, that tomorrow when you get on the scale, it should literally be lower than what it was.
As significant as it feels to eat celery.
But that's not how the body works. And unfortunately, it does take time. And our level of patience is just not there. It's not, I'm not willing to wait to see what happens in 90 days. I want it to happen in 9 minutes. And you're like, but that's just not how it works.
You might feel better in 9 minutes, but it's going to be incremental.
Yeah, I mean, anybody out there that's tried to lose weight, it's a time and duration, right? Like, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be events that take place that might sidetrack you or even keep you the same. Like, you might hit a plateau, but it doesn't mean that you're not doing the right thing. Your body just has to catch up, because again, the body will do whatever you tell it. But you have to understand that all of these factors play into it. Sleep, stress, work-life balance, emotional stress, things that happen in your family that you're just not prepared for. All of it adds up, and it's extra weight that we carry. And there's not really much you can do in terms of diet, but stay consistent. So the first thing when it comes to dieting for anybody is don't look at it what you can and can't eat. Look at it what you are eating, what you're putting in, and practice healthier habits. Practice that. Because it doesn't matter if you eat chicken, beef, or pork, right? But if you're eating 42 ounces per meal. Like,
Okay, so yeah, so then that's what I feel like we need to go into. Like, how does somebody know they're doing something healthier? Because it's arguable that, you know, a banana might be a wasted 200 calories a day, but somebody who's like, I'm going to get healthy now, I'm going to go to the grocery store, I'm going to buy some bananas, and that's what I'm going to, you know, how can you give someone the best like tip on really understanding what it means to lean into healthier habits?
So yeah, again, it's to catch you with your hand in the cookie jar, understand what your habits are, and then try to guide your habits. So again, with the preconceived notions of what you've tried, what you haven't tried, what you believe works or doesn't work, my job is to teach you the truth and guide you. So I try to point people in the right direction. They'll come in with, you know, some idea of like, I want to try X. And my job is to either persuade them that X is just not right for them and that they're better served with using this other method. Or, you know, hey, yeah, that's a good method, but we just got to make sure the numbers are right for you. We can't just blindly put you into it, because no matter what, right? You, your husband, or anybody, everybody's different. Everybody's unique. Everybody has their own issues and problems and limitations and strengths. And we have to play to your strengths to try to get you where you want to be. Like, if you don't eat meat, it'd be very hard for me to try to help sell you on a keto diet or a carnivore diet.
Sure.
But if you're coming in and you're like, that's all I want to do, it's like, okay, but you don't eat meat. So we got to pick a different direction for you.
Fundamentally not going to work.
Yeah.
So
tough.
What are the numbers that you have to take into consideration? Like, how does this all play out?
So, I mean, really for anybody, I mean, specifically if we're talking about what we were talking about earlier with intermittent fasting, there's, you know, how much muscle mass you have, how old you are, how active you are. These will all play into the number that you can play with in terms of your total calorie allotment for the day, which ends up going back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, which is the math question, right?
Right.
How much energy you need to do the things that you want to do for the day. And some of us carry excess energy in terms of stored body fat on us, and we don't need to take in more energy to supplement. We need to get rid of that energy. So finding that perfect number and fine-tuning that number is really based on what you do, what your lifestyle is, and how your body's sort of made up. If you're muscular, you're going to need more energy to stoke the fire to keep the muscle. Otherwise, your body's just going to break it down.
Let's pretend like it's just like somebody like me.
Okay.
So when I came to you, I think it was, you know, I'm active in the sense that I make sure to get to the gym. I don't know that I was challenging myself. I probably, unless I go to a class, I'm not challenging myself on a certain level. And maybe 3 days a week, but I have a very sedentary job.
Right.
Even if I wanted to move around more, like I'm literally on a computer a lot of the time. So mostly sedentary, but, you know, active in the sense that I always never know what to say. Is like, are you sedentary or active? Well, I'm active in the sense that I know I need it, but for most of the day I'm sitting around. I guess if you're thinking like that, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination perfect, and I'm also not obese, but I'm just kind of somewhere in the middle, and I've always got something that I can play with or get rid of or whatever. I mean, what's your assessment of me, basically? If someone were like me.
That is a loaded question. How do I look at this dress?
No, I mean by the numbers.
Yeah,
like,
so
from what I need from an energy level.
So from the numbers, I believe we've gotten you on the scale a handful of times in our gym, and the numbers I think for you are somewhere around that 1,400 number, right? To sustain your life, right? That's
1,300, 1,400 calories.
Total calories that you need to run your life for your
like
sedentary.
For my body to
for your
burn.
lifestyle, for your breathing, for your thought function, for your heart to work, for your lungs to move.
So we're talking about how many calories I should be intaking.
Yeah, the bare minimum that you need is that 1,400 calories. I don't remember the exact numbers. But you're not literally just
that's not incorporating actually an actual fitness plan. Then
that's not incorporating
just
any kind of fitness or any kind of energy that you use to do anything other than live, be alive.
Just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. So if you're just gonna wake up, but you're going to wake up and sit in that chair all day long, you need 1,300 calories.
Okay.
But if you start moving your finger, if you start blinking your eyes,
Right.
if you start getting up to go to the bathroom, if you have to take Lucy out, do anything that's demands more energy, you're most likely going to need extra calories.
Okay.
The way the body will work is it will store the energy in your body that you need. So on any given day, it'll have roughly the 1,300 calories you need in some form to get the need that it has.
Yeah.
And then you're going to ingest any kind of food and it'll replace. It's just going to plug and replace. And as long as you consistently give it nutrients, it'll consistently function in some capacity. Whether or not it's optimal for you, it's going to function. Because, again, it'll do what it's told. You're still going to need to live your life, so you're going to force your body to do something. Unfortunately, we live in a life, a time where anything and everything that we need is basically at our fingertips. So if we need energy, we can take a shot of coffee. We can go to the store and get a Bang, a Monster, a 5-hour energy, which is all pseudo energy to try to get our body to do something more. But if we just use the right nutrients, our body will have all that energy that we need, and it won't feel lethargic. It won't feel tired. It won't feel run down. So you're basically like the masses, right? Everybody that has a real job that costs them time in a chair, but is active in the sense that they still need to perform outside of that. And so my company, what we want to do is we want to try to teach everybody to make their body a weapon versus a liability. Because if your body, which is stuck with you for the rest of your life or for your entire life,
True story.
and you want to optimally function, right? Let's just say you need to get 6 hours of sleep every night to optimally function. But on a regular basis, you're only getting 4. Well, now you're already putting basically a strike against yourself. And in order to sublet that energy, you're taking in more coffee. So now you're basically forcing your body to stay awake longer, and you're not giving it nutrients that are from food. You're giving it fake energy, like pseudo energy from the coffee. You're forcing your body to work longer, but giving it less. And your body is just going to be running on haywire, but it's going to say, all right, well, if that's the case, I've got to store more energy, so more body fat, in order to sustain life longer. And because we're less active, we're actually telling our bodies to put on more body fat.
Interesting. So then what do you do with that? You want to be able to, first of all, take in more calories because you need to be more active.
Right.
But you also have to be more active for those more calories to make sense, because I need more than 1,300 calories for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I may not leave my house very often, and I'm working from my home office, but at the same time, I am going to be running around doing whatever I can when I'm not on the computer. So something's got to give.
Right. So nowadays, because we don't have physically active jobs, like we're not working on farms or machines or building or anything, we have to do some kind of physical activity that requires us to do mechanical work, some kind of mechanical work, which now we have plenty of gyms out there. It doesn't matter what kind of gym you like to go to. You're going to have to do some kind of mechanical work to force your body to move in a way where it's outside of your ordinary day-to-day life. Stop, just sit at the desk, whatever. And that activity is what plays into then having to go to a gym and knowing what you're doing. If you do it right, you should burn 300, 400, 500 calories depending on how long you're going to be in there, maybe even more. The great thing about CrossFit is that it's a high intensity, it's sort of a max effort type of approach where it's going to force you to use as much energy as you can put into your body for that maximum effort of that mechanical work that you're doing. And it's varied enough where your body doesn't know what's going to happen to it, and it's varied enough where if practice, it can be a very, very powerful tool. I mean, obviously, CrossFit wouldn't be as nationwide well known as it is if it wasn't productive,
doing something,
right? If it wasn't demonstrating real tangible results. I mean, most of those people that are like the 1% that you see have like rock hard bodies. And I'm going to tell you that most of them don't eat the best nutrition in the world, but they're using so much energy they're costing their body so much energy, they got to fuel it.
Okay, so we talked about how many calories I need to just like be alive and breathe.
Right.
But let's say I am going to start like weightlifting, or I'm at least going to the gym and exerting at least 250 to 300 calories per time I go to the gym 3 to 4 days a week.
Right.
On those days, is it literally equivalent to the amount of calories I would burn that I can now bring on in additional calories to eat that day?
So on any given day, you could theoretically eat the energy you need for the energy you're about to
Exert. Yeah.
So if you burn, let's say average
Because
300 calories.
I'm also not going to lay around and just breathe for the day. So in
Right.
theory, the other quote unquote exercise of me moving my body is still burning. So I'm still in the negative, ideally, even if I've added on 300 calories to eat, because I'm going to burn 300 calories in the gym.
So it gets a little crazy, because this is where it gets a little confusing, because now you're giving yourself more calories, but you're burning more calories, so you're at zero. But the whole net of it, the whole math equation needs to be less by the end of the day. If you're supposed to eat 3,000 calories to live your life to exactly how it is right today, and you only put in 1,300 calories, well, then there's a huge deficit, right? And then you go work out, now you're adding in even more of a deficit.
Right.
You're hoping that the net over the course of the week adds up to whatever the weight is that you want to lose. But
And if you want a pound a week,
right, you got to go 3,500 calories.
you need a deficit of 3,500 calories a
Right.
week. It's just
so
math.
that means that's a minimum of, if you're supposed to eat 3,500 calories a day, would be 1 pound of food for your energy. You got to figure that most people will burn somewhere around, just to be alive, that 2,000 calorie range. That's why the FDA puts 2,000 calories as suggested daily amount allotment for food on basically every nutrition facts label, because it's taking into consideration both men and women. But the reality behind it is everybody's different. We're all shapes, different sizes, and you got to really do allocate the right number for yourself.
I could keep talking about this stuff forever, but before I ask you my last question, I'd love for people to hear where they can follow you, where they can learn more about Sentinel Performance and all that kind of fun stuff.
So yeah, I mean, my name is Frank Cosenza. My social media handles are SentinelFrank83 on Instagram, and I mean, you can email me at frank@sentinelperformancellc.com. Our website, obviously, is sentinelperformancellc.com. Again, the human body is a machine. That's kind of what our logo represents. And what we're trying to teach now, and I gave Amy a little bit of a present for having me on today, is she got a new shirt. Actually, on the back of it says, weaponize your body, because your body is your greatest tool. You're going to use it for everything that you're trying to accomplish. Why not try to hedge things in your favor by fueling it optimally, making it perform at its best so you can perform at your best, right? So give it the right nutrients, give it a little bit of physical activity, give it a little love. Self-love's a great big thing on the social media now. So give yourself some love by literally taking care of your body, and it'll pay dividends in the long run.
Love that. All right. I will make sure to link all of that in the show notes. My last question for you, Frank, is what does it mean to you to go after the life that you want?
Happiness. I've tried other lifestyles before this. If you can imagine, I want to be a lawyer. And yes, money would have been amazing, and I would probably have a cup that runneth over. But unfortunately, I wasn't happy. I was stuck at a desk. It wasn't enough physical activity for me. And I wasn't helping anybody, right? Like, I was just a number pushing a piece of paper. Well, actually, I was watching a computer push paper across a desk. And so it was lame. And now I get to help people experience what I experienced when I was 14, 15 years old. And I lost that weight, and I had that moment where it was my pants fell off, and I was like, what am I going to do? But there's weightlifting, weight training, working out is the greatest simile to life, metaphor for life. It is the exact same thing. Life's going to be a struggle. There is going to be variables and things you can't handle in life. Deaths, weddings, babies, doesn't matter what it is. Your body's going to have to suffer through all of it with you. Like, you can't just change it at the whim, right? Like, I can't go to the store and be like, I want a new body because this jalopy that I have, I want a Ferrari. That's not going to happen. So it literally is, it brings joy to my face to work with other people and get them to where they want to go, to see them transform into that person. And you'll see the confidence just exponentially increase, right? If you look good when you're doing your job and you feel good, you feel confident, no matter if you're wearing your power suit or anything, you're going to perform well, right? If your confidence is blossoming because you feel good about yourself, you have the right nutrients in your body, you have the right energy, you're going to hit the ground running. But if you party hard and drink and then you have to go give a big presentation at work and you just feel like death the next morning and you're wearing sunglasses and you're just like, please don't talk to me, no loud noises, how open to conversation are you going to be at that point? How much money do you think someone's going to want to dump in your lap because you're just like, yeah, I drank my face off last night. So I think that we do take for granted what we're capable of, but we also don't use our potential because we like to overcomplicate things. So my suggestion to you is if you want to be happy and healthy in life, take care of your body and it'll take care of you.
Good advice, Frank. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, let's catch the details of this episode with Frank. First of all, having a six-pack is not sustainable. I'm very glad that we got this out there because, quite frankly, it's a little depressing when you don't have one and you see people that have one. Get the camera ready because the moment you have one, you better take some pictures because you're going to eat and that stuff is going to change. Unless you're going to eat perfectly for that type of lifestyle. And I mean, obviously not perfectly. You could probably still have it and not necessarily have it be as cut up as it once was and it still be there. But it's going to be a total different life than the average person. So just recognize that this is a goal. This is something that would be amazing. If you want to get it. But don't be sad when it's gone if you're changing the way of your lifestyle. Next, be self-aware of your daily life so that you can understand how much energy you need. Food is fuel. So if you're overeating and your body doesn't need that much energy, it's not going to burn it in the same way. It's not going to burn it as fast. If you're having less food than you need for energy, that's also not a good idea. You really want to be at that optimum level for where you are performing so that you have energy, so you're not run down, so your body is in good shape overall, not just visually, but feeling that way. So just recognize food is fuel. What you put into your body is what your body needs to burn in order to operate. What you choose to have it burn is what determines what you look like. Just because you're building muscle doesn't mean you're bulking up. This has always been my biggest fear. I do not like lifting weights because I do not want to look like a bodybuilder. But Frank also works with people who do not want to be bodybuilders and they still lift weights. Why? Because fat takes up more room than muscle. So if you start to change fat over to muscle, it's actually going to take up less space, which means you can lean up, which is my favorite thing, leaning up. And so that is what we're trying to do. So just because you're lifting weights, building muscle, doesn't mean you're bulking up. Since recording with Frank, it's been some time now, he has actually been selected to work in China as an Olympic strength coach. So we very much wish him well in this experience. And I just want you to also know that he's still very responsive to questions in the DMs or comments. So make sure you hit him on Instagram. He's awesome over there. He shares a lot of great motivation, a lot of great tips, and he will totally answer any questions you have based on this conversation we had today. So I encourage you to go talk to him. I actually literally I'm challenging you right now. I guarantee he will write you back, whenever time zones accommodate. But his gym in Lewis Center, Ohio is also still accepting clients, so go check them out at Sentinel Performance. They also do a free fitness class on Saturdays, so if you just want to give them a try, check it out if you're local. That was such a great episode. I just want to remind you to quickly check out Shine Squad if you think it's right for you, to hang out with me a little bit more in optimizing your mornings to go after the life that you want. You can find that at patreon.com/AMYTV. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. If you want to discover even more actionable details, head over to AMYTV by typing the URL in your browser, youtube.com/AMYTV, or search for Amy Landino in your YouTube app. Make sure you subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life that you want. Cheers.